Wow, this show is fantastic. This is easily the best show on Nickelodeon I've ever seen. This show is so well realized. All the characters are so great. Everything about this show is incredible. And this is probably the best finale to a show I've ever seen. Nothing could possibly ruin this show. It's so great. Wait a minute, what the heck is this? A movie of Avatar? A live-action movie of the Avatar show? Directed by M. Night Shyamalan? Well, I do like M. Night Shyamalan's earlier movies like Signs and The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. Maybe he could have done a good job with the Avatar world. I really do love that show. That show is incredible. Maybe he could do at least a decent job at making an Avatar movie, even though it doesn't really seem like that could be a thing. Maybe I should check this out. Maybe this is a good thing to check out. I think I'm gonna watch it. This can't be bad. M. Night Shyamalan making a live-action Avatar movie? This should be good. I'm checking it out. Here we go.
2 hours later.
The Last Airbender. Hey guys, welcome to the video. I was setting up for a really long time my review for The Last Airbender for 100 subscribers. It's taken me a while to make this video, and here it is, finally, for you all to enjoy me ranting on one of my least favorite movies of all time. So, The Last Airbender is directed by M. Night Shyamalan and stars a bland white guy, another bland white guy, a bland white girl, Dev Patel, and bland people all around the world. And it's based off the Nickelodeon cartoon, which is my personal favorite show of all time. It's a show I grew up with and really enjoyed watching. And this movie is the live-action adaptation of that. And it's about how there's 4 different nations: water, earth, fire, and air. And the Fire Nation basically took over all of the nations, and they are basically ruling all the nations. And the new Avatar, Avatar Aang, who's found in an iceberg by Sokka and Katara, has to master all 4 elements and stop Fire Lord Ozai. So guys, like I said, Avatar The Last Airbender is my favorite show of all time. It's been really close to me ever since I was a little kid, because every week when that show came out, I immediately wanted to see the next one. It was a really special thing for me growing up. I grew up with those seasons, and they were really important to me. It had beautiful animation, great characters, and a great story, and just everything about that show worked so well. So when I heard they were doing a live-action adaptation of it, I was stupid and little and I got excited. And I finally saw it, and even when I was little, I realized that it was a terrible movie. And when I first saw that text scroll at the beginning of the movie, rather than the awesome opening that was in the show, I knew something was off. In the show, they have this awesome opening where Katara's narrating and they show the stuff that happened. The stuff that she's narrating, they show it. She's like, I believe Aang can save the world. And for example, she talks about the Fire Nation attacking all the nations, and they show like the Fire Nation blasting fire. But in this show, it's just scroll. Because the thing that Shyamalan needs to understand is that you should show, don't tell. Something very apparent throughout this movie that I'll probably get into a lot more. And immediately, when they first show Sokka and Katara, I immediately can't take it anymore. I immediately want to stop watching because these characters are terrible. Sokka in the show was a dork. He was a really dorky, funny character, but he was more than that. He was more than just the comic relief. He was a character that was really smart compared to everyone else. He always thought things through, and he was really smart, and he knew when something was wrong that the other characters didn't realize. And he was a really smart, good character, and he was a good addition to the team. And in this movie, he's just a bland Hayden Christensen wannabe.
And I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them.
Who also happens to be a Cullen in Twilight. And also Katara, who's a motherly character in the show, is reduced to this damsel in distress with no personality at all. She was a motherly figure, and she was really awesome at kicking butt whenever she needed to. Katara was awesome, and she was played by Mae Whitman. But in this show, she's just bland, and the only thing she does is push a firebender at one point. She does nothing else. She doesn't even fight as far as I know. And her character just does nothing, and she has no impact on the movie at all. You could have cut that character out, and it wouldn't have done nothing. And honestly, the acting in this movie consistently feels like a school play. No, actually, I've seen school plays that are better than this. I've seen middle school plays in my middle school that have better acting than what this movie pulls off with its kids. I'm serious. The acting in this movie is horrendously bad. And one of the things that might receive a little bit of praise is Dev Patel as Zuko, because he's just fine. He's not really good, but he's not really bad either. He's just okay. Dev Patel did an job. Because Zuko is possibly my favorite character in the entire show. He's one of my favorite sort of anti-heroes of all time. In the movie, he's just okay. He's tolerable, besides the fact that it looks like he got punched in the face rather than got burnt in the eye. You basically get my point. Every character in this movie is reduced to a bland, bad-acting idiot. Aang as well. He's horrible in this movie, because in the show, he's a silly character who is very fun, and he never wanted to be the Avatar, but he's matured, and he realizes who he is and what his destiny is as the show goes on. He consistently matures. But in the movie, he's just boring and he's not playful at all. The characters have no chemistry because everything is rushed. They had to rush this movie into an hour and 40-minute movie. And the show had many episodes to flesh out these characters. And all the characters in this show just have none of that. None of the chemistry is there. They just never seem like they like each other. I have to mention Appa also looks horrible. He's got really weird skinny legs. And he just looks really hideous. Like, if you have good CGI at your disposal, you should be able to use it for good things, not making everything just still look horrible for the sake of it looking horrible. Another thing that's so dumb about this movie is that it's almost like Shyamalan tried to screw with fans because he mispronounced the names. Because in the show, it's clearly Sokka, it's clearly Aang, it's clearly Iroh, but in the show, they're just like, Ong, Sokka, Iroh. It's like they... It's like they purposely tried to screw with the fans because they know what the pronunciation is supposed to sound like, and they just messed it up just to make the fans angry. They suffer from show, don't tell in this movie because, like, honestly, one of the scenes I found really funny in this movie is that Zuko talks to this random kid and tells him to explain what happened to himself. He literally asked this random kid about his past for some reason, and the only reason I can think for him doing that is to explain to the audience what happened to him. It's such a lazy way to explain what happened to this character. It's so dumb and lazy. And every scene in this movie is just more exposition thrown at you rather than them showing what should have been shown like in the show. And the scene where Aang figures out his whole family is dead after all the 100 years and that the Fire Nation wiped them out. It was really effective in the show because you know this character. You had time to know this character. He was fleshed out and you feel bad for this character. But then in the movie, he's just... You don't feel for this character at all because you don't know him. Plus his acting is horrible, so you can't really like this character. And it's just done so poorly because you don't know this character and you can't feel for him in this moment that's supposed to be sad. And also, Zhao in this movie is so bland. In the show, he was played by Jason Isaac and he was really gruff and intimidating. And in this show, he's just boring and bland and there's nothing intimidating about him at all. Jason Isaac did a great job of being intimidating, and then in this movie, he's just a guy. Oh my gosh, one of the things that's the most iconically bad thing about this movie is that there's an episode of the show where they keep a bunch of earthbenders on this metal ship because they can't bend on that ship. They can't defend themselves. But in the movie, they're just put in this area that's full of earth where they can just completely attack the firebenders. It's so... What were they thinking? Like, why would they put earthbenders in a thing full of earth? I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. I need to do something more fun than reviewing this movie. Sorry, guys. I'm done. Done!
A few moments later.
Let's go into the spirit world. It's not working. Whew. Sorry, guys. Where was I? Oh, yeah! The Earthbender's prison is made of earth. So if you think this scene couldn't get any worse, oh, it does! Because they take 5 Earthbenders to carry a rock in this scene. Yeah, because in the show, Toph, who's an awesome character in the show, who I'm so glad they weren't able to ruin by keeping the movies going, she could destroy an entire tank. Just her, by herself. Just one Earthbender could destroy an entire tank, and it takes 5 Earthbenders to carry a little pebble into the sky. It's like, when you have really advanced CGI at your disposal, why not use it for good? Not crap. I mean, we're probably not even 30 minutes into this movie yet, and I already can't take it. And also, another thing Shyamalan likes doing in this movie is overusing close-ups. I don't know what he was thinking. It's like he zooms up to Aang's face so far, and it's like you can almost see his breath on the lens. It's that close. It's for some reason Shyamalan wanted to zoom up on this kid's face really awkwardly. It's like, why did you do that? This wasn't an intense situation. I understand why I'd use a close-up in a movie like The Sixth Sense or Signs, because those movies are actually creepy and are supposed to put you on edge. But Last Airbender, why would you just have a close-up of Aang's face just in a normal conversation? I don't understand why he did that. And another thing that I thought was really dumb about this movie is that Aang has trouble with waterbending. And in the show, he got waterbending right away. It was Katara who was having trouble doing the waterbending. And in the show, Aang was even better than her. So why did you have to change that? I understand why movies can be changed from their original source material if made better, but it doesn't really make anything better because in the movie they talk about how earthbending is usually always tough for airbending avatars because it's the opposite of air, and that was really cool, and the stuff in the second season of the show when he has trouble with earthbending was really funny, and it was done well. But there was no reason for him to have trouble with waterbending, and it doesn't even go anywhere, and it doesn't even have a purpose. He's just like, oh, Aang was having trouble with waterbending, because reasons. And then after Aang starts having trouble with waterbending, we finally see the Fire Lord Ozai. And this character in the show was built up so well. In the first 2 seasons, he's basically just in the shadows. You don't know him very well. He's just in the shadows, and you hear his voice sometimes, but not that much. And then in the 3rd season, his role was beefed up, and he was a complete awesome bad guy, and he was awesome in the 3rd season. But in this show, he's just a gentleman who just says words and blandly walks around, and even in the show, he was played by Mark frickin' Hamill. Luke Skywalker, the Joker from the Batman cartoons. Mark Hamill! And then in this movie, he's just a bland idiot. I can't comprehend what was going through Shyamalan's mind while making this movie. And then there's the scene when the old man lures Aang into the firebenders when he's at an air temple. And this scene is so dumb because it's just Aang explaining stuff. He's just like, oh, I never wanted to be an avatar and blah, 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 blah. And in the show, there was an entire episode about Aang's and Zuko's past because it was comparing these two characters and talking about what the similarities that these two characters had. And that episode is one of the best episodes of Season 1 because it really shows the similarities between these two characters and their pasts. But in this movie, it's reduced to Aang just talking to this random old dude about his past. I'm losing it. And also the blue spirit part is pretty lame. It was really cool in the show because it was like Aang was captured by Zhao and then Zuko saves him and he's disguised as this blue spirit and you don't know who he is until Aang takes off the mask and he's like, oh, holy crap, that's Zuko. Wow, okay. And Zuko saved Aang so that he could capture him for himself, and that was so great in the show. But in this show, it's really lame because the action is just not done well. Okay, action in movies with panning shots is done very well in some cases. Like, for example, Creed, which came out 2015, there was an entire boxing match, just one shot. And it was incredible. It's one of the best action scenes I've seen, I've seen in a long time. And in this movie, Shyamalan does that a lot. He takes one take, he just pans around. But the problem here is that these characters are just walking around doing nothing because Shyamalan's doing this shot. They could have cut and made these characters go faster because it's literally just Aang just walking around some firebenders, and the firebenders are so useless. They seem like video game minions. They're just sitting there going like, ha! Ha! And not actually attacking Aang. It's so bad, and when they actually do fight, it's slow-mo. They just do it in slow-mo. I don't think there's any action scene in this movie that's done without slow-mo. It's just a bunch of slow-mo of Aang just going like, wah! Shaboom! It's so bad! And then also, they finally get to the Northern Water Tribe. And another thing I hate about this movie is that in the show, Sokka and Yue had a really touching romance. They were able to make these characters have a really great chemistry with only 4 episodes of them being together. Because there was only 4 episodes when they're in the Northern Water Tribe of the show. And they're together for only 4 episodes and their chemistry worked really well. And you really felt for Sokka in this relationship. And eventually when she has to put her spirit into the fish thing, it's really sad in the show. It's like, oh, Sokka. It's actually pretty sad stuff. I tear up when I see it. And in this movie, it's basically just Katara going, hey, Sokka and Yue, they became friends right away. She just says that. That's their whole romance. Katara just says they got along immediately. We don't get to see any of this chemistry. We don't get to see this relationship be fleshed out like it was in the show because Katara just goes, oh, they became friends. Because you guys need to know that. Piece of crap.
Later.
Okay, let's finish this thing. Let's finish this piece of crap. And in the show, there was this character called Paku. He was really awesome, and he trained Aang and Katara with waterbending. And those sequences were really cool in the show, but in the movie, it's just like Aang and Katara just doing this. Yeah, gotta make some water. And literally while they do that, no water even happens. And when they do actually waterbend, it's so slow. They just go like... It's like, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Because on the show, you could do stuff really fast. You could just be like, zoom, and you could get an entire thing of fire just bursting out of your hand. And then waterbending, you could just go like, and make an entire wave. But in the movie, it's so slow and dull. They couldn't even get the bending right. I swear, in this movie, there's no redeeming qualities. And then there's another thing. In the show, again, Zuko is in this ship, and it blows up. Like, Zhao literally attacks him while he's in the ship, and he nearly dies. That was a really great moment of the show. He nearly dies. and Iroh is really sad about this, and then Zuko almost dies, basically. And then in the movie, they don't even show that! It's just Zhao going, hey Iroh, I'm really sorry about your nephew burning in that terrible accident. They don't even show it, they just... Calm down, Nate, it's just a terrible movie. And I mentioned that there's no scenes with Sokka and Yue being romantical. The relationship isn't even explored. Well, that isn't entirely true because there's one scene with them together talking, but it's literally just to explain more stuff. Like, they could have had a really touching scene with this couple. They could have made you like this couple. They could have made you buy into their romance, but instead Shyamalan just like, okay, so you're gonna say stuff about your past so that the audience gets it. Could have been a really good scene, but you're just gonna spit more exposition out on us. I just can't even. I just can't even. I'm gonna skip to the part where Zuko has Aang captured, and they do a little Tom and Jerry routine, you know? Zuko's just like standing there, and Aang's just behind going like, Phew, and Zuko just looks back. It's literally just a Tom and Jerry routine. Is this what you've been stooped down to, Shyamalan? And any dramatic scene in this movie also doesn't work, because you don't care about the characters, they aren't fleshed out. Like the scene where the spirits are killed, it doesn't work, it just whatever. And then Yue putting her soul into the spirit to revive the solar eclipse isn't really very good, because you don't know this character, you don't care about Sokka and her romance. In the show it was incredible. That scene was so good. But in the movie it's just butchered, and it's just really lame, and you don't care about these characters, so you don't have any emotional connection. And then the climax goes through, and it's really lame, and it's more action of just nobody doing anything, and just a bunch of panning shots, just like the Blue Spirit stuff, and I need to skip through because I can't talk about this movie anymore. And then the last scene is them setting up a sequel, and Azula briefly shows up. Azula, you know, the great character in the show, that's Zuko's sister, and she's a really great villain of the show, and she's really awesome and really creepy in the show. Well, she shows up very briefly in this sequel setup, and she's just like, I will, father. Shyamalan actually thought he could make a sequel after he completely screwed up this show. Shyamalan. What happened to you? I don't understand. After so many masterpieces, like The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and Signs, you just lost your touch. The Visit was good, though, but you completely lost it. Really sad to say. And this movie it disgusts me. But one of the things I can take away from this movie is that it makes me appreciate the show even more than I already did. Because they did it so wrong and then the show did it so right. Honestly, you can compare it to this terrible adaptation and you can realize, yeah, the show is one of the best shows ever made. That's the only good thing I could take out of this movie. The fact that it shows you how great that show really was. You really appreciate the show after watching this movie even more. But all around, it's horrible. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and I'm never watching it again after this. I watched it for 100 subscribers, never gonna watch it again in my life. This is my final stand with this movie. The Last Airbender gets a big fat frickin' F. So guys, seriously, thank you so much for getting me to 100 subscribers. I already made a thank you video, but thank you so much, because I couldn't do stuff like this. I mean, honestly, I hated that movie. I hated watching it again. It drove me nuts. But I had fun making this video. All the ideas I had to come up with, I really had fun making it. And I'm really glad that I was able to make it for an audience that actually cares about my videos. And I'm really thanking you for subscribing and liking and all that stuff. It's really great and awesome. And I wouldn't have been able to make something cool like this if it weren't for you guys, so ding. Okay guys, be sure to like this video, be sure to subscribe, be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you like this video. And yeah, this was really fun to make. And I'm gonna go watch a much better M. Night Shyamalan movie now, so bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Eventually.
This is so much better.